You walked into that courtroom. You have never been to court before in your life. In Nigeria, Ghana, Zimbabwe, court was something that happened to other people. You were a good person. You worked. You provided. You tried. And now you are sitting in a building you do not fully understand, being judged by a system that was not built with you in mind on the worst day of your life. And nobody warned you about what was actually going to happen in that room. Today, we are going to talk about it, all of it. The false allegations, the custody battles, the financial settlements that feel like robbery, the way immigration status gets used as a weapon, and what you can actually do about it. And that's Wetin Dey Happen. First, let me explain the system you are walking into, because most of us do not understand it until it is too late. In the United Kingdom, family law changed significantly in 2022 and in 2025. Under the current no-fault divorce system, you do not need to prove adultery, abuse, or any wrongdoing to get a divorce. Either party simply states the marriage has broken down irretrievably. Done. The marriage ends. But here is where people get caught. The divorce itself is almost the easy part. What comes after? The financial settlement, the child arrangements, the asset divisions. That is where the battle begins. And that battle is fought in a system that most of us from African backgrounds have never encountered and were never taught to navigate. England and Wales typically offer what lawyers call needs-based financial provision, meaning the court looks at what each person needs going forward rather than simply splitting assets down the middle. This particular one tends to favor financially weaker spouses, particularly in long marriages, valuing a homemaker's contribution equally with the person who earned the income. On the surface, that sounds fair, and sometimes it is. But here is the reality for many African diaspora men specifically. You came here, you worked, you built, you sent money home, you sponsored your spouse, you paid for the house, the car, the school fees, the flights back to Nigeria. And when the marriage ends, the court looks at what your spouse needs going forward, not what you sacrificed, not what you sent home, not the years of provision, what she needs now. And if she earns less than you, which is often the case when one partner was sponsored and is newer to the system and the workforce, the system will divide your assets in a way that may feel deeply unjust, but it is the law. And the only way to protect yourself from it is to understand it before you need it. Now, let me talk to you about something that is discussed loudly in Nigerian WhatsApp groups and whispered about in churches and community meetings, but they are rarely said clearly and fairly on a public platform. False allegations in diaspora relationship breakdowns. Let me be clear from the start. Domestic abuse is real. It happens in our community. It happens to women and it happens to men. I will not minimize it and I will not excuse it. Anyone who has genuinely experienced abuse deserves every protection the law provides. But there is a documented pattern, not a rumor, not gossip, a documented pattern of allegations being made during divorce proceedings that are used strategically rather than truthfully. Research has found that up to 70% of cases involving allegations of abuse during custody disputes are deemed unnecessary or false. And these false allegations are primarily made against men. In the United Kingdom, there have been documented cases where domestic abuse law has been used strategically to remove immigrants' husbands from their homes. A Nigerian lawyer named Dele Olawanle showed and shared a documented case of a Nigerian woman in the UK who falsely accused her husband and the father of three children of raping and abusing her for over 12 years. And just this year, a UK-based Nigerian man named Ugo had his marriage publicly dissolved after his wife was alleged to have made false domestic violence claims against him when he discovered her infidelity. According to the account shared publicly, the false allegations were investigated and found to be untrue, and the wife was subsequently deported, losing her marriage, her status, and her future in the UK. Now, why does this happen, specifically in the diaspora context? Because immigration status creates leverage. If a woman on a spousal visa makes a domestic violence allegation, the law in the UK provides her with a pathway to remain in the country independently of her husband under what is called the domestic violence rule. The protection exists for a very good reason. Genuine victims need it. But it also means that making an allegation, even a false one, gives a spouse in an uncertain immigration position a strategic immigration advantage. Courts are increasingly recognizing that immigration-related pressure can distort the divorce process and create serious power imbalances. And this works in both directions. Men use immigration status to control. Women use immigration status to escape, sometimes legitimately, sometimes not. And the person caught in the middle of a false allegation faces consequences that are immediate and devastating. Because protection orders are processed on an emergency basis without the accused present, most judges will grant the order even when the accused has no history of violence, and you can be served with a protection order without even knowing charges had been filed, facing serious consequences for weeks or months before you get to stand before a judge. You lose your home. You lose access to your children. Your reputation is destroyed. In the community, at work, sometimes publicly on social media. And then, weeks or months later, when the truth emerges, there is no announcement, no apology. The damage is done. Let me talk about the children. Because in everything I have just described, the allegations, the court battles, the financial disputes, the people who suffer most silently are the ones who had no say in any of it? The children. In the UK, when a divorce or separation takes place, both parents typically maintain joint custody, meaning a child splits time between both parents. The court always prioritizes the child's best interest above everything else. That principle is correct, but here is the reality that the principle does not prepare you for. When allegations are made, even false ones, a father can be removed from his children's lives overnight. Not reduced contact, removed. Pending investigation, pending hearings, pending a process that can take months. And during those months, your children are growing, asking questions, being told things, forming memories. International child arrangements after divorce have become increasingly complex, with courts maintaining jurisdiction over cases involving cross-border custody disputes. Meaning, if your children's habitual residence is the UK, the UK court controls what happens to them, regardless of what Nigerian family law or your parents back home might say. For the African diaspora specifically, this creates a particular kind of pain. In our culture, children belong to the family. Grandparents have a role, aunties have a role, the extended family is part of the child's upbringing. Western family, their courts do not recognize that structure. They see two parents and make arrangements for two parents. The grandmother in Lagos, the uncle in Peckham, the community that raised you, invisible. And if one parent tries to take the children to Nigeria for a visit without proper consent, under UK current law, taking children abroad without the written consent of all parties with parental responsibility can constitute a criminal offense under the Child Abduction Act. I have seen this destroy families. A father takes his children to see their grandparents in Lagos without realizing he needed written permission. He comes back to a criminal charge and a court that now questions whether he can be trusted with unsupervised access. Not because he is a bad father, but because he did not know the rule of a system he was never taught. Here is where I stand on everything I've just told you. I believe in the law. I believe women who are genuinely abused deserve every protection available. I believe children's welfare must come first. I believe courts exist for a reason, and that reason is very important. But I also believe that a system which does not account for cultural context, which can be weaponized by either party, which makes devastating decisions in the first 48 hours before all the facts are known, that system has gaps. And those gaps fall hardest on people who do not understand the system they have entered. And in this country, that disproportionately means us. The Nigerian man who does not know that raising his voice during an argument can be recorded and submitted as evidence of threatening behavior. The African woman who does not know that staying in an abusive marriage because she fears deportation is not her only option. that the law actually protects her. The parent who does not know that taking their own child to visit family in Nigeria without written consent is a criminal act under the UK law. We are losing cases, losing custody, losing assets, losing our children's time, not because we are bad people, but because we entered a system we were never taught to navigate. And make I talk am plainly. This Western court, na in territory you dey, na in rules, in language, in assumptions. When you enter that place unprepared, you are already at a disadvantage before you open your mouth at all. You're already at a disadvantage. The only way to fight on their ground is to know their ground before you need it. So, here is what I'm telling everybody in the diaspora to do. Not if your marriage is in trouble. Now, before anything happens at all. First, understand the financial rules before you need them. In the UK, both parties in a divorce must provide full financial disclosure. Income, assets, savings, pensions, property, debts. Hidden assets or incomplete disclosure can lead to serious legal consequences. If you are sending significant money to family in Nigeria, document it. If your spouse knows about assets you have not declared, that will come out. Transparency now protects you later. Second, if allegations are made against you, document everything immediately. Texts, emails, videos, and audio recordings can all be presented to court. Keep records of your interactions with your children. Keep records of your financial contributions. If you feel a false allegation is being planned, speak to a solicitor before it happens, not after. Third, know your rights around children and international travel. Before you take your children anywhere, get written consent from the other parent if they have parental responsibility. In writing, even for a holiday, especially if you are going to Nigeria or anywhere outside the UK. Fourth, if you are in an abusive situation and afraid of what living means for your immigration status, there is help. In this UK, Southall Black Sisters, Refuge, and the domestic violence rule all exist to protect you regardless of your immigration status. You do not have to stay in danger to stay in the country. And fifth, get a solicitor before a crisis, not during one. 1 hour with a family law solicitor now costs a fraction of what contested divorce will cost you later. Knowledge is the cheapest protection available. The Western courtroom is not designed to be your enemy, but it is also not designed specifically for you. It was built within a cultural framework that is different from ours, and navigating it requires understanding it, not fearing it, not avoiding it, but knowing it well enough to protect yourself and your children when it matters most. If this episode helped you, share it, because there is someone in your network right now who is walking into that room unprepared. And this conversation could change their outcome. Drop a comment below. Have you been through the Western legal system in a relationship breakdown? What did you wish someone had told you before it happened? Next week on Love Wahala, we talk about the children, what diaspora relationship breakdown really does to the generation growing up between the two worlds. My name is Samuel. This is Wetin Dey Happen. And that, my friend, is Wetin Dey Happen.